I was gonna try to do a sexy Guinness pour, but it just.
God.
I can zoom in real far in post, or you can, because of the 4K now. The name's Taffin. Mark Taffin.
Smooth.
Hello, welcome back to the 95th episode. It doesn't matter, one of them. We're recording so far ahead now, Kyle, that I truly can't remember what.
It's all my fault, honestly.
Yeah. The 95th, I think, episode of Good Bad or Bad Show about terrible movies, television.
And we are going to Gaelic country.
Ireland. That's why we got some Guinness in this biatch. Dude, you don't want one, right?
No, I'm good.
I figured I figured I'd offer on camera for the people in the comments being like, Kyle O'Brien never gives Kyle anything.
I don't drink.
There you go. Now you know. We're going over to jolly old Ireland.
And boy, do they like themselves some dark stouts over there.
It's not easy being a dolphin.
They drink, and I think it's Guinness in all of them.
Yeah,
it looked like it was. They're drinking, I think, Guinness in like 80% of the scenes in this movie.
Ireland is the land of golf, lush greenery, and
sheep fucking. I mean,
whoa, and plentiful amounts of peat moss that are for sale.
Yeah, and Guinness. Which they actually don't drink that much over there anymore, I don't think. Because I actually haven't been to Ireland, though. I've been to Scotland, so they didn't drink it in Scotland. But that might be like a race war thing.
Race war's on, everybody! It's going down! Shit is going down!
Race war is not the right word, but...
Culture war
thing. So, what are we doing, Kyle?
We are doing a fantastic little film that's been recommended. I kind of wanted to do this one, but I watched it and was like, it's a pretty competent film.
Spoilers, this movie's too good for this show.
I know.
But also, still ridiculous.
It has some ridiculous parts, and we'll get into them.
Yes.
But this film is called Taffin.
Taffin.
It is from 1988, and it stars one Pierce Brosnan?
Yes.
There we go.
Pierce Brosnan in one of his earlier roles.
Yes, this is
well before
Goldeneye.
For England, James? No. For me.
Well before James Bond, well before whatchamacallit, that one movie about art theft or whatever. This is the one movie I can't remember.
I got no clue.
Diversion. Make a lot of noise over there. So over here in this room, you can take 100 million off the wall and waltz right out the front door.
But yeah, it's Pierce Brosnan, but this feels like very much maybe the reason he became James Bond.
Yeah, because here's the issue with him. We'll just disclose this right now. Pierce Brosnan is an incredibly charming man. Like, that man is unbelievably charming.
Very pretty, isn't she? Oh, yes. Athletic, too. Hardly any older than that young daughter of yours away at that expensive boarding school I've been hearing about.
That's the biggest problem with this movie being, like, on this show, is that he is so good and charming and wonderful to watch on camera that it kind of carries the rest of, like, the not good. If that, you know what I mean? Like, there's lots that isn't good about this movie, in particular the ending, but we'll get to that. But he's just so damn likable on camera, even as like kind of an asshole. Like, he's still so likable on fucking camera.
It seems to me that cowardice is a terrible price to pay for respectability. Next time, elect it yourself.
I think the most interesting thing about this movie is what it feels like such a glimpse into like the world of like small town Ireland.
Yes, yes, and it's kind of weird. Like, this film is basically about industry tycoons coming into a small town.
Yeah,
which that happens in U.S. You know, we've had that in U.S. films.
Oh yeah.
And this is basically it goes unbelievably 80s.
Oh,
we'll get into it as we go.
Absolutely, but it is your quintessential like small stakes 80s movie. Like there's no like we need to save the world in this movie. It's we need to be able to keep playing football. It is like the stakes of this movie. So the movie opens up, credits, and it's got some terrible like pan flute over the
Yes.
and then
Which, by the way, music. One of the music directors, right?
like composers, whatever. Yeah,
Hans fucking Zimmer.
Hans fucking Zimmer. It's like a name. The music pops up. It's like some dude, Hans Zimmer. And Katie, we were watching this last night. Katie was like, turned to me and she goes, like the Hans Zimmer? And I was like, I don't think there's another one, Katie. I don't think there's two Hans Zimmers. Yeah, which the funny thing is that the music in this is not good.
No,
it's very... I don't want to say it's bad necessarily, but it's not...
Sometimes it's out of place, but for the most part, it doesn't quite hit the mark.
It doesn't quite hit the tone, and it's just not as super interesting. And it's again, maybe it's my American ears, but I'm not real big on like the like Gaelic folk music that they like incorporate doesn't match what they're going for. I feel like in the movie, maybe I'm wrong, but it just doesn't seem to quite make sense.
I mean, we can go for some Irish music that always fits its setting. Rudy.
Witness, we want to see how quick you are here. Over the right middle, man. Keep it going. Keep it going. Time's enough. Heads up. Keep moving. Pump those arms.
Yeah. Well, and yeah. All right. And
Or Boondock Saints even.
Yeah. All I can think of it too is the which is it's kind of vaguely Gaelic inspired. Is the fucking pan flute playing motherfucker from Hidden Ray or.
Hidden Race.
Is it not Hidden Race?
Yeah,
it's unexpected Race.
Well, they are a Hidden Race.
Yeah. But, Hidden Race makes more sense than Unexpected Race.
Does.
But
So
sure.
the Unexpected Race, pan flute dude.
Yeah. That guy. Oh, he's not playing pan flute. He's playing regular flute. There is a pan flute. Whatever. Doesn't matter. But it is great. So then once he gets in, he ends up going in one of the opening scenes. He ends up going to this restaurant.
Yes.
To like.
He's asking
shake down.
Yeah, somebody's asking him to shake down people for money.
And this is where we're introduced to what he does, which he's
a collector.
He's a collector. He's a local tough who goes around and gets money for people. He's a debt collector.
You're a very naughty boy, Mr. Malley. You owe Mr. Shaw, your butcher, what is it? £3,700.
And he's shaking down these guys in this restaurant. And I love that he's shaking down like the guy in the front of the restaurant. And then like in order to intimidate him, he brings out some chefs and they're like, we're the muscle. Like the chef. All right, fine. But apparently they're all brothers. But also, and Katie pointed this out, and I didn't even realize it, but it's so strange. He's at a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Do you notice what was on the wall that they break eventually?
Oh,
those neon lights?
Yeah.
They're coat hangers? They're coat hangers.
What?
They're neon coat hangers. I was like, was this a dry cleaner at one point and that they turned into their neon coat? I think what it is, because they knew they were going to break them, they just got the cheapest neon lights they could find to put on the wall, and a dry cleaner was going out of business, and so they got their neon lights, and they're like, this is a restaurant. Why do we have coat hangers on the... And they're like, fuck it, we're going to break them in 5 seconds anyway. It's so weird. But he kicks everybody's ass to some badass action Gaelic music.
And the fake tables are incredibly fake.
Yeah,
they are that thick. They just break in half. Like
he's just he's a repo man, and I love Pierce Brosnan in this movie. His hair is
wild and all over the place.
He's like George Michael a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. But like there's scenes where like they're outside and the wind's going and it's kind of all over the place. Yeah. But then there's scenes where it's indoors and it's so damn perfect.
Oh, it's so good. And he's got a pierced ear. He looks fuck. I love the aesthetic of this movie is so specific but so adorable and like fun. And like he's wearing like those late 80s like leather coats with like, and also he'll have like a leather coat with like a denim coat under it instead. It's such a specific time period.
Pierce Brosnan, he makes this movie so much fun.
Oh, it's so great. Yeah, it's so good. And then so he beats these guys up, gets the money back, and then goes to have a pint of Guinness at 10 a.m.
Which I was watching this and I was like, man, he must have like a drinking problem. And then I was like, oh, Irish. Right, he's in Ireland.
Just Irish.
It's on the house, Smoke. And drinks for your brother tonight and every other night. Courtesy of these good people here.
And then he goes home after he goes and has his pint of Guinness. We meet his mom, basically. It's not important. But then she tells him that there's some guys there who want him for a job or whatever, or looking for him. And I love, he goes outside. And one of my favorite things about this is that it's one of those quirky 80s things. He's a debt collector, right? What is his office, Kyle?
His office is a rundown factory.
It's like a barn or something. Yeah, I don't know what it looks like.
It's just completely open to the elements.
Yeah.
All of his files and everything, it's just open to the elements.
He just has a desk and a file cabinet in like an old Irish barn, like outside. And it's very, I will say this about it. It's a very distinct, like, personality. This movie has a lot of personality. While again, I don't know if it's a good personality, but it's got a lot of personality.
The problem is like with an actor like Pierce Brosnan, and with like what he can present, and what they're kind of going for is they're going too high for the low concept of this movie.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what makes it work, though. This might just turn into like a review as opposed to like a good, bad, or bad episode. I think that's kind of what works for it, though, is it is this like super low concept, like debt collector, some bad guys come into town, and he like has to run them out. Like some bad guys want to build a thing in town. The town doesn't want them to build there, so they go to their local like tough guy to try to run these business guys out of town, and he has to go toe to toe with them. And now you would normally think that plot would star like, I'm trying to think of an actor at the time. I can't even come up with somebody at the time that would make sense. But
are you talking in the UK or are you talking
here or either way?
I could almost see.
I'm thinking like an older, like a like maybe Daniel Craig before, and I guess that doesn't not a good reference because he does eventually become James Bond as well. But he feels more like the type of guy, like if you saw like Layer Cake or something like that, that kind of Daniel Craig, somebody who's a little more gruff and a little less suave, you know what I mean? To be like the local tough guy.
Sylvester Stallone?
Maybe Sylvester Stallone, maybe something like that.
Your disease, and I'm the cure.
Die!
Because that's what you would expect. But then they go and they cast James fucking Bond in their role.
Yeah.
Like, and he plays it like he's James fucking Bond.
Should be more careful about what you eat.
Because women want him, all right? That's why he's James Bond.
That's the thing too, is that's what I love about it. Is it's a James Bond movie, except he's a local debt collector. It's like this movie asks, what if James Bond went around getting 10 pence from the local fucking thugs or whatever?
This is our complete saying. I'll just say it right now, like Daniel Craig's great. I think Pierce Brosnan is a better James Bond. And this movie solidifies it because he was playing James Bond a fucking decade before he was James Bond.
He really is. And it's fucking amazing. I don't know. I like Pierce Brosnan a lot. I like them all. I pretty much have all of them except for I'm not a big Lazenby fan. But in general, I think they're all. But yeah, he really is. And it's just such a fun contrast between what you're expecting him to be versus who he is. And it's really interesting.
Now you look at GoldenEye and you're like, of course they had to go with this guy.
Yeah.
He's so damn good.
There's no way this movie isn't the reason he was James Bond. As like not good as this movie is, you 100% would watch this movie and go, oh, that guy should be James Bond eventually. Like it's spot on.
Well, shit, I watched the Foreigner with him and Jackie Chan, a recent movie that came out like a year or two ago. He stole the show.
London bus for Christ's sake.
No, hold
Not even
on.
fucking warnings. 16 dead.
You stabbed me in the back and sanctioned this bloodbath to get your war back on?
Like,
he's great.
Even at his age now, he's too damn good.
He's too damn good. He's very talented. But he goes to meet up with these guys. So we just jerked off Pierce Brosnan for like the last 6 minutes of this episode.
I'm okay with it.
So he goes and he meets up with these guys out in his barn office. And they want him to shake down. They bought a van. They're like a band or something. It seems like he said, yeah.
They're trying to tour. They're trying to go to their gigs, but they need a van for their band.
And the one a van band. And the one they bought is bad. They bought one and it doesn't work.
Locks up or something like that.
And they go, we need you to shake down the car dealer, to get him to fix our van. And they're like, we have money.
We pay it.
You wouldn't be able to afford me.
And I'm like, okay. So your options are go hire a thug to shake down the car dealer guy, which I guess sure, or just use that money to fix your van. I mean, like, I get the like moral thing of like, fuck this guy.
They also
he should
said
fix
like
it.
To fix it would be more than what.
Oh, did they say that? I missed that. Okay. Okay, because it just seemed to me, I was like, all right, yeah. But so he's not going to help him, but then he decides to.
Well, he decides to let them help themselves. So he gives them guidance.
He gives them a tip of basically just go threaten them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like his tip is go threaten them or whatever. And the ADR on that scene is real rough. When they that is one of the more bad technical things.
Heard your insurance might not be fully up to date.
Piss off, Sonny.
Careful. You might start a fire.
And that's one of the things because, it's outdoors. They're in
They're next to a road.
Yeah, they're next to a road. They're in this factory.
Well, I was talking about specifically when they go to the car lot and they're threatening the guy.
Yeah, that's way worse.
It's
because, they shot across the street.
Yeah, and the ADR is real rough. But so they get their van or whatever, and they actually make a reappearance in the movie.
Yeah.
They become like his goons or whatever later on in the movie. And then there's some Irish hoedown music, and I was like, Hans Zimmer, what are you doing, good sir? What? So then he goes to a bar. He ends up at a bar. I don't know. He's shaking down some dude at a bar, and he's like crushing a glass in his hand.
I saw that, and I was like, did the fucking Departed steal that from this movie?
Oh, maybe.
Because isn't that what Leonardo DiCaprio
I think that does happen, and
yeah.
I think you're right. It's been a long time since I've seen The Departed, but I think you're right. I think that does happen. Yeah, maybe.
Once again, this film is way ahead of its time.
It really is in a lot of ways, like in terms of. Kind of love this movie, Kyle. It's not good, but I kind of love it.
We both kind of love it.
Yeah. So then he gets the end though. Oh fuck me. He gets to this bar. And he's threatening this guy. Crushes the glass in his hand. Blah blah blah. And then this turns on the bartender so much. Mm-hmm. And I mean, of course, it's Pierce Brosnan standing there, and she's like,
"I need a lift." Okay.
Sure.
Can I leave with you? And he's like, yep.
She is also being harassed there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They're like,
the guy's very grabby.
The guy's being very grabber. And we're introduced to his bald partner, who I don't even know if he gets a name.
No clue.
He's just hanging out there. And I love it. He's just sitting there drinking a Guinness at the bar, like while all this is going down. He doesn't do anything. But then as him and Pierce Brosnan and the girl at the bar all leave together. Her name's Charlotte. We'll find out eventually. They all leave together, and I was like, oh. And then when he pulls up outside the girl's apartment or whatever. It's just him and her, and I'm like, I guess that other guy just fucked off somewhere. Because I was like, oh, just imagine that scene, they're the romance scene is happening, and it's just the bald guy in the corner drinking a Guinness,
Yep.
Yep.
I didn't say so.
And then he goes and fucks her, right?
Yep.
On the floor, right next to the bed.
Where I was like, wait, hang on a second.
I understand, they're going for, the heat of the moment. But the bed is right there.
Carpet burn.
It's right there.
Carpet burn.
Not fun. Right there. Literally 2 inches to the left. And I did not realize that was the same girl, though, at first, because it sounded like the way that their conversation ended in the car, that he was not going to sleep with her.
He said, I had something to do, but then she threw him a key, and then it cuts. It just cuts to him in there.
No need.
Yeah, and it seemed weird because I thought that she was giving him the key, like, we'll come back later sometime, but it seems like it's that night. Whatever. The editing's a bit rough at times in the movie. This is my third time in my notes that I've written. So we're on page 1. Pierce is so good, even in this terrible fucking movie. 4 lines later in my notes, even in this terrible movie, Pierce is still super cool.
I know.
I just wrote it like constantly throughout the fucking notes. And then he's at the football field. I don't even know what happens in the scene.
I think his brother's the coach or something.
I think you're right. But there's this lady with the craziest fucking sunglasses. She just sneaks into the shot, and she seemed like she purposefully was like, I'm being in this movie. I'm being in this movie. Like, she leans into the fucking shot, and she has the craziest sunglasses. Also, too, I think it's really funny that it seems like his job as like a low-level thug who collects money for people is like very respected amongst his family.
People in the town are too suspicious or too scared to ask you for your help publicly. Then don't you see that if you offer it to them, they won't feel that way about you anymore? Whether they know it or not, they need you.
Now, there are elements of people who later that becomes like a thing of like, the way he does his job, he's like, you don't respect me, or, you know, you don't want to get your hands dirty, but you want me to do it, blah, blah, blah. But in this part of the movie, his family seems to like him, his job, and like be cool with the fact that he goes and like shakes down like low-level thugs for money or whatever.
But he's going over against the law or under the law or whatever, but he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, and they basically, like, in this moment, this is where it comes up that, oh, the town needs your help. Because
and this is where we were fellatioing, Pierce earlier. This is where the movie does it.
Oh yeah,
pretty heavily. They're like you're the only person who can do it.
Whether they know it or not, they need you. On their own, they got no chance.
I heard you, Mo.
You're a genius, the best, but you know that.
The only person in this whole town that can save us is Pierce Brosnan. And it's like he's going to save him through intimidation, good looks, and fisticuffs.
And blackmail.
and blackmail. And by golly, he does. And a gun, eventually. He does murder some people. That's what I was wondering, too. I was like, so is the... Because we find out, like, basically this is where it's explained that the stakes of this movie are that... There's a chemical company coming in. They're going to build a chemical plant outside of town, and they need to run a road. The initial stakes are they need to run a road to get from town to their plant, and it either has to go through some field or the soccer the sports, what do they call it, the sports field, I think.
Yeah.
And so that's the initial stakes, is him trying to convince them to run the road not through the sports complex.
But they got to find out who owns the meadow.
Yeah, and it's some crazy guy.
This guy is wild.
Listen, this is just business, Mr. Henderson. No.
Yeah. I also thought it was like, initially with these being the only stakes, I was like, if he ends up murdering people over them not ruining a football field, this will be the most Irish movie that has ever been made.
Yep.
That's great.
But he goes to this guy's, he talks to whoever the magister or the head of the aldermen or whatever.
Right, yeah. At a sheep sale.
Sheep sale.
It's
Irish. Yes, it's incredibly Irish.
It's so great.
But he talks to them. He says, I know who owns that meadow. I'm going to have to prove it. So he goes to the landowner.
Yeah.
And he's met with gunfire.
He's a crazy guy in a little, he's got like a RV or whatever, like a camper, and he's got a shotgun. Yeah, and he goes shooting at him, going crazy. And then this is where he, he just screams a lot. It's really great. And also, Katie pointed out at this point, because there's a scene in the middle somewhere where we see the blonde girl again, Charlotte, and Katie was like, do you think she talks about these days how close she was to being a Bond girl?
She
was a Taffin girl. Taffin girls were Bond girls before they were cool.
Exactly.
Also, did you notice who that was? It took me, and we're not even there yet, but it was coming up. It took me until 3/4 of the way through this movie to realize who that actress is, because it's a person that you will know probably.
Hit me with it.
Okay. Her name, the actress's name is Alice Allison Duty or something like that. Doesn't sound super familiar. And the reason you don't recognize her in this movie, I realized, is the hair, because she has this 80s hair, like the teased hair and makeup. She is in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Billy?
Elsa,
okay.
And Last Crusade, which is
Last Crusade. Oh, okay.
the Nazi chick.
I knew it was you. You have your father's eyes.
And my mother's ears. But the rest belongs to you.
I was thinking of Temple of Doom.
No, the Nazi chick.
The one who is
Elsa.
Who drinks and didn't she drink? Or no, she falls down the pit.
Yeah, she falls down the pit trying to get the cup at the end.
Okay,
that's Elsa. I was like, holy shit! It's the year after this movie. She is in she is in Last Crusade. She was in Taffin. She went from Pierce Brosnan to Harrison Ford.
Do you realize how this movie fucking launched people?
Yeah. Then she didn't do anything after that.
No.
She was in Last Crusade and didn't really do much after that, but it blew my mind because Last Crusade is my it might be heresy to some people, but Last Crusade is my favorite Indiana Jones movie.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, of them, Raiders is great. I love I like all of them, but Last Crusade, I just love Sean Connery in it so much.
Yeah,
it's so good, and I really enjoyed like the elements back and forth.
What does it always mean? This Junior.
That's his name, Henry Jones Jr.
Like Indiana.
We named the dog Indiana.
We were introduced to a guy that we know for sure is a bad guy because he's smoking a pipe and wearing an ascot. That's gotta be a bad guy, right? And it's like one of the business guys, or he's like maybe the town alderman.
Yeah,
or
there's
something.
there's like three bad guys.
Yeah, there's several different bad guys.
There's the corporate bad guy, there's the business management land bad guy, and then there's the city bad guy.
Like the mayor,
city management.
Whatever, yeah.
The three levels of bad guys.
Yeah, and they all die eventually, I think.
No,
there's two of them.
No, the mayor dude doesn't.
I thought the mayor guy was the one who got burned down in the house.
No, that was the land management one.
Okay. I can't keep any of it straight. It was hard to understand them sometimes. So, yeah. He's spying on them. There's a brief scene where Pierce Brosnan is spying on them in a field. Mm-hmm. And I think the idea at the end of the scene is that he's like got binoculars. And I think the idea is at the end of the scene, he's like upset with what he overheard. And he goes like, but it looks like he just like decided to take a nap in the middle of the field. It's very strange. Which I have slept on in a Scottish field, and it is, I know, slightly different, but it was one of the most delightful naps I've ever taken in my entire life. I don't know what their grass over there is like different.
Well, I mean, it's perfect for golf, right?
Yeah, and it's perfect for sleeping
maintained
as well. But then, so Taffin goes and he visits some guy, and he goes to his house, and he's like schmoozing the guy's wife. This is one of the bad guys. Yeah. I'm not sure which one it is, but he's schmoozing his wife or whatever, and then she leaves. And this fucking scene is so funny because Pierce Brosnan is sitting on the couch, and he is occupying the entire couch with his lone body. It is the weirdest power. Nope. Prometheus fell. Fuck you, Scarface. Yeah, he's fucking he's like fucking that couch. It is dynamic. And then it turns out that
seductive the furniture can't even hold.
Yeah, the furniture is like, good lord, that couch is pregnant now. But he apparently has pictures of Ascot. What?
I had this image of it giving birth to an ottoman.
An ottoman with Pierce Brosnan's hair.
Exactly.
I need that Photoshop, Kyle.
I'll get
just
it.
An ottoman with Pierce Brosnan's hair. Good luck.
Lasso tool and rotoscope. We're doing it.
But apparently he has pictures of this guy being a pedophile or something, it seems like, is what he threatens. He blackmails him with. He's like...
Very pretty, isn't she? Oh, yes. Athletic, too. Hardly any older than that young daughter of yours away at that expensive boarding school I've been hearing about.
Yes. Oh, that young girl you were with, blah, 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 whatever. So he's got blackmail on this guy.
So just, if you want his job, if you want Mark Taffin's job, you need to, like, find who the people in charge are, tail them for years, and take photos of them, and then
maybe one day you'll need them
somewhere down the line.
Yeah, maybe one day you'll need them when they try to ruin your football pitch. I love that he goes back. Now this time, Taffin goes to visit Mr. Henderson to get him to sell the land or whatever so that they can build the road through that instead of the football field. And he, I love, there's a great line Mr. Henderson yells. I love Mr. Henderson. He's only in like a couple scenes, but he yells,
You get off my land and stay off, you dirty fucker.
He goes, he's taking a shit in the outhouse, and Pierce Brosnan walks up and he starts talking to him. I'm like, that's not cool, Pierce Brosnan. Let the man do his business first. But he comes out, and then they blow up the fucking outhouse.
Yes.
They have a remote control that apparently had a bomb in the outhouse.
Yeah, well, that's what Pierce Brosnan was over by the outhouse earlier planning.
And putting in some C4 or something in there because they fucking destroy his outhouse. And then they go back to the bar and drink some more Guinness. There's literally Guinness in like the very next
all
scene.
over this.
It really is.
I got nipples like bullets.
And then a great classic 80s bad guy thing. They have a little miniature of the thing they're building. That's like one of my favorite villain tropes.
It is. It's like what is this? A factory for ants?
Yeah. But they go into it and we see like he's got like the whole the factory set up like model on his desk and they're talking about it. And then we're introduced to the big bad villain.
Yes, this is where the big bad dude comes in. You know it's him because they're like...
The reason that I've invited you all here today, gentlemen, is to meet my associate in this enterprise. My associate, and from now on, yours.
Somebody opens the door for him. He has perfectly, like, super 80s
yeah. But he has, like, weird, like, blonde... He has, like, I don't know if it's dyed or if he just has, like... whatchamacallit, like some sort. He has like a blonde streak across the front and sides of his bangs. It's very interesting looking, but it does give him. It's a classic thing with like Bond villains where you give them some sort of dynamic physical
feature,
thing that like sets them apart. Where it's like a scar or whatever, or diamonds in their face with that one terrible Pierce Brosnan one. Which one was that? Die Another? No. World Is Not Enough, I think, is the one where the guy has diamonds in his face because he was a landmine went off and blew diamonds into his face or something. I think that's a thing. I might be making that up. I'm pretty sure that happened in World Is Not Enough. And then they announced this whole project where they're building this plant and they put up a big billboard for it, and there's like great scene where there's like everybody staring at the billboard while very dramatic music plays, and it's just like the most boring scene. It's just like a bunch of people looking at a billboard, but it's like dum 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 dum. I'm like, all right. Also, again, we talked about it, but one of the things I love so much about this movie is that it's 90% like small town Irish politics. Like that's like what the whole plot of this movie is let's talk about zoning commissions and like going to like city council meetings.
Yeah, well, like they have like I guess it wouldn't be because like House of Commons is the big thing, right?
But their local
this
version
is their
of that.
local version of that. And it's just townspeople yelling and screaming from the rafters.
Yeah, it feels very British because I don't know if you've ever, it's one of my, we used to, this is a fun thing. If you ever want to watch something very fun, I don't know if it's still fun. It used to be when I was in college. On like BBC or either BBC or PBS or something, like once a week they do, and they do this once a week in the House of Commons where the Prime Minister goes and has to, it's question time or whatever. It's like Prime Minister's questions or whatever, and it's literally just an hour of the Prime Minister getting yelled at and like, but it's like they like make fun of each other. They like, it's like a rap battle, but in old English. It's part of the reason that like in Hamilton where he like the rap battle in the room or whatever, but it's literally like them just like coming up with eloquent British ways to insult each other for like an hour, and it's fucking hilarious. And we used to like sit and watch it in college just for fun because we didn't even know what they're talking about, but it was just fucking hilarious.
The House has noticed the Prime Minister's remarkable transformation in the last few weeks from Stalin to Mr. Bean.
They try to, there's a lot, so at this point now, Taffin's like, I did my thing. I got them to build the road in a different place, but the city just doesn't want the plant at all. They're like, it's going to pollute everything or whatever.
They said it's going to turn our trees are going to be barren of leaves, our grass will turn yellow.
Yeah.
The trees are defoliated, the grass doesn't grow, shrubs turn yellow and die.
do you want to breathe? You want your kids breathing that air? Blah, 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 that sort of thing. And so the town wants to stop building the plant at all. And Taffin's like, look, I already did my part. I got him to move the road, so I'm done. And he's like, I can't.
Which you also have to be like the opposite side of that, which is, well, it's a chemical plant is what it is.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what it is, but
doesn't matter, Kyle. It's an evil chemical plant.
I know. You'd think there'd be at some point somebody who's like, if that factory job came here, I'd be really good for my family.
But think of the children, Kyle. I don't know. Yeah. We don't know. We get none of the details because they don't matter. That's not important.
It can be deeper than what it shallowly is.
It could be, but that's not the point. Our point is to watch Pierce Brosnan be a smooth motherfucker and yell, because this is when Pierce Brosnan starts yelling lines.
It's amazing.
Hilarious. This scene where they're trying to convince him to help, the one guy is one of the city higher up guys is trying to convince him to help, and Pierce Brosnan just screams at him.
I can't change the world that we live in. And what's the point in life if we don't try to do just that?
It's such an amazing line.
It's just everything about it is so good. Next day though, Pierce Brosnan's out and about on town, and the people are getting ready to protest. And they're, for whatever reason, I don't know where they were coming from, but they're walking through a very narrow,
yeah. And then the anti-Pierce Brosnan comes in,
the thug for the company or whatever. Yeah. One of the thugs.
He comes in, blocks it, makes a phone call, threatens people, kind of.
Yeah. And but Pierce Brosnan just steals the car.
Yeah, just hotwires it
and moves it down the road and saves the day like a boss. And he gets a nice little witty line at the guy. The guy's like, "I'm not finished here." And Taffin says back to him,
"Not till I'm finished here."
No, you're finished here. You're just too thick to know it.
It's great. I love it. I love everything about it.
I do like how unbelievable, because I'm pretty sure this entire town is it's Irish Catholic because he went to seminary school.
Yeah. He was going to be a priest.
There's a part where they're talking at this breakfast table or dinner table, what have you, and they keep talking. They keep talking about him while he's in the room. And he's like, oh.
Would you all mind not talking about me as if I wasn't here? If people want me to do something for them, let them ask.
But then he retorts back and says something about a bloody something.
Yeah.
And then his mom gets onto him.
Fat chance of that.
She's right.
Then they can bloody well go.
Language.
And then I was like, okay, that is the most Irish Catholic thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because my grandmother is the Catholic side of the family, and if we ever did something like that in her presence, that would be her response, and we would be whipped.
It's always so funny to me too that bloody is over there is like saying fuck or something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because we always think of bloody as more of a quaint, not really like a curse word, but apparently it is. Because again, his mom is like, "How dare you speak like that at my table?" It's like, all right. And then he gets beat up. Right?
Yes.
He gets caught. He's like, him and the guy are leaving a club one night.
Oh, yeah. So he's leaving with his girl and then the bald dude or whatever.
Who has a matching red motorcycle to go with the red Mustang.
But they get into his Mustang and they're about ready to come off, but then they gets blocked off. He backs up and then backs into a bunch of parked cars. Pierce Brosnan's a horrible driver.
Yeah, he really is. He backs up into a bunch of cars, but then all these street toughs get out of the thing.
Yeah, and they just beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, they knock the guy off the bike with the motorcycle, or off the motorcycle with a baseball bat, and they just beat the shit out of Pierce Brosnan, and so now he's injured. But then in the very next scene, he's shirtless lifting weights.
Yes. Oh, it's so good.
It's freaking amazing. And this is where he gets into a big fight with Charlotte.
Yeah.
Because she wants him to take it easy and not get so involved, and he's like, or something. But at one point she ends up saying, while I'm living here, this is my I care about this town because I'm living here. And then
Pierce Brosnan goes,
"What goes on in this town is none of your business.
As long as I'm living here, it is."
And then he just yells at her in the greatest scene in this movie.
"Then maybe you shouldn't be living here!"
Well, that's easily fixed.
He screams so loud, like a crazy person. But even in his most ridiculous moments, it still works. Like even if
it's so good.
it is. This would not work for like 95% of actors, but somehow Pierce Brosnan makes it work. It just like he starts screaming like a nutty person, and it's delightful. Oh, it's so good.
She's like, "Screw you, I'm out."
Yeah, and she leaves. She heads out, and then the townspeople burn down the billboard.
Yeah, good lord. But it's great because like they just throw a whole bunch of petrol. They throw a whole bunch of petrol on it, and then they light it, and it perfectly burns where you just see what was originally there to begin with on the edges.
Yeah.
And then it stops. It's like, you put way more gas than that on it, but all right.
Yeah. I also love, too, that the guy who's lighting the fire is the most British-looking, or, English-looking.
Mustache. He's got the cabbie hat. Yeah, this is so good.
It's like, he's like, all right, lads, let's go start some fires. Like, it's fucking amazing. Oh, I love it so much. Then they piss on some dude's feet and punch Taffin's brother. Yeah. They find him in a bar.
Because they're, it's since it's Ireland and they're at a bar.
Yeah.
They have to take a piss.
Yeah.
Because it just runs right through you.
Yeah.
But he gets knocked out and falls in the urinal.
He falls into the urinal, and then meanwhile the other guy's just pissing on the other guy's feet. It's pretty fantastic. So then basically they're like, look, things have gone too far. We have to get Taffin to help. We have to make him help.
They meet up with him at a pier.
Yeah, they meet him on the pier.
And
on the Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, that was really bad.
It wasn't even anything. I don't.
But they tell him, we need your help. Do whatever you have to do. Get this factory out of our town. This. No questions asked.
I love this.
We don't care how it's done. No questions asked. We're prepared to pay.
No questions. Yeah, because he goes, Pierce Brosnan goes,
no questions. Say it, damn you.
Yes.
And then he's talking about like how he goes, well, if I'm doing it my way, and if that's eventually you're gonna not be happy about how I'm doing it, you can't come back to me later and be like, hey, how dare you? You can't feel bad about.
I'm gonna burn down properties, broken bones, killing people. When does it stop?
He says,
a knee in the groin, all right. A broken nose, if I must. But it grows, doesn't it? Ruptured spleen, torn arteries, razor cuts.
I also love at the end of the scene on the pier when he decides he's going to help him. He goes,
all right, I'll help. On one condition. When you turn against me, as you surely will, you remember, I am only your weapon.
That's a great line.
It's a great fucking line.
It's a great line.
A great fucking line. I was like, all right, Pierce Brosnan. All right. Again, he's already channeling that inner 007 energy in this moment.
Well, you watch this movie and you're like, of course you have to go with him.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fucking amazing. Then they end up at a strip club for some reason because the guys are there. The bad guys are there.
Because I'm pretty sure strip clubs are now like prohibited in Ireland.
I have no idea.
But
seemed like a strip club.
Yeah,
there were naked women.
It absolutely was. But I'm wondering when they were like, no, we're done with that.
Yeah, because there's a plethora of long butt in this scene. We get
we
get that 80s long butt.
A lot of 80s long butt.
Yep. And then they leave the club or something, and also they're at this strip club at like 3 in the afternoon. It looks like when they go outside, it's like daylight, super bright. I'm like, that's fucking weird. But the band guys from the beginning nab some of the bad guys and like douse them in gasoline.
Yes.
And then just dump them in a lake. I don't even know.
I don't know. Well, they grab him, and it's that the petrol thing where he's like he gets a cigarette. He's like,
put that out, you crazy bastard! They poured petrol all over me.
Covered in petrol. Oh, it's amazing. And it's like throughout this whole movie, I'm like, what even is Ireland? It seems like this weird lawless wasteland in this movie where it's just like
it's Mad Max but just green fields.
Yeah, really. It's like the most beautiful rolling hills, but basically Mad Max. Yeah, it's fucking wild. And then there's a high speed. I say high speed chase. Taffin chases one of the bad guys.
One of the bad guys is chasing Taffin.
Or yeah, that's what it is. Because he out of the strip club.
Once again uses his car as a weapon and just backs into the dude's car and then drives off. But since it's like 80s, this is the 80s and all the vehicles are like from the 70s and the 60s.
Yeah.
They're all steel body frames.
Yeah.
And they are like, this is back when vehicles were significantly more dangerous than they are now.
Murder machines, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but they're chasing around, and it's the most Irish car chase ever because it's through the hills, and then there's like farming equipment getting in the way and stuff. It's great. But then they get to like some shack in the middle of the woods, and I did not understand the scene. I need you to help me understand it because Pierce Brosnan is standing there waiting, and the guy pulls up and walks over. Pierce Brosnan walks out holding a shotgun and goes,
There's two of us. And one of these.
and he sets it on the ground between them, and then they fight, but never do anything with the shotgun.
Well, no, he goes for the shotgun, and he just put it there to lower the guy to get his face down so he can kick it.
Oh, okay.
It seems kind of stupid, but...
I felt like it just was weird because I was like, it seems like they don't spend any amount of time trying to get the shotgun. They could have just fist fought. Like, they could have just, like, fought. I was like, well, I don't understand what... Okay. I didn't understand the point of that.
But somehow they need to get to this guy. So they in the most random fucking thing at first, this woman is being chased through the woods. It's kind of hard to see who it is.
Yeah,
it's insanely random.
I thought it was her, and I thought it was Charlotte because they were just talking. Well, and the scene before this, Taffin's doling out some wisdom because she's like, well, we got to do something. She's like, you got to have to murder people or whatever. And he's like, he turns to her and he goes,
this is far more powerful than this.
It's like, all right, buddy. But so she runs out in front of a car, and you're like, what is going on? I thought that we were missing a scene. Yeah, I thought something like an editing problem happened.
She gets into the vehicle, and this guy wearing a ski mask.
It's one of the bad guys,
right? Yeah. No, is one of the good guy, the
chasing her in the ski mask.
Yes,
but the guy in the car.
Oh, the guy in the car is the bad guy.
The bad guy.
He's the land management bad guy.
Yeah. So she gets in the car with him. In order to, she acts like she's being chased. This guy's like, "Oh, I'll help you get in," and then they drive away. And then she pretends that he tried to rape her when they get to the next to a cop.
They do that. And it's like that's your plan to get everybody against him. This random woman that is she a foreigner in there? Or is she?
I actually think she might be. Well, that actress is Irish. I found out. I did not realize that.
Is she an outsider? She's an outsider to the town. Was she working in there for the little bit that she was there?
I have no idea.
Or was that
I don't know. I don't know if they go into detail.
But the point being is, like, it's just they take him down. He explains it, and then they let him go because there's,
and there's like okay, but then apparently there were still charges coming or something. I don't know. It was very confusing. Because none of it matters because he just gets burned to death in like the next scene or whatever.
Well, the blackmail is...
I understand all that. There's nothing I can do about it. I've just signed a confession which would put you and me behind bars for a long time if it ever got out.
But then the bad guy hires a hitman to burn the house down with that guy in it. And he does. And he's dead now.
But everybody thinks it's Taffin because...
because Taffin was there.
That's something he could do.
Yeah, Taffin could do that. And then after that, Pierce and Elsa, or I keep calling her Elsa, are lounging by some Irish ruins. It's a beautiful shot. They're like lounging on the like English country or Irish countryside, and there's like ruins in the background. I was like, this movie's pretty cool. And then Taffin gets his weird barn lair taken away for some reason.
Because now the town's turning against him because they think he did.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they kick him out and they put his desk on the curb. And now Taffin has to get even because this was always his home, but now he can't even, like, the people here don't like him anymore, and all that sort of stuff. So he's got to go get Sprawling or whatever the guy's name is, the big bad, the big company guy. And he's got to stop and get petrol. And there's just the hitman is just there.
Yeah, and with
one of the other guys. Yeah, I don't know how they knew he was going to be there. They're literally just waiting for him at this gas station.
Yeah, but then they hold a gun up to him and say, "You're going to follow this vehicle." And as incentive, the thug dude gets into and puts a garrote around his neck.
Razor wire around his neck. Yeah. And tells him to drive, but then
they didn't check him for a weapon beforehand, so he just
pulls it out of the
pulls a gun out and puts it into the dude's nuts.
Yeah. And it's like, you're gonna do what I tell you, and it's like, oh, that was quick. I'm glad they set up some tension of whether or not Taffin was gonna be okay, and then immediately within like a second, they're like, he'll be fine. He's got a gun. And then so he gets to wherever they're going, and the guy who's like the guy who was driving the lead car is trying to figure out what's going on in the car behind him. He walks up to it, and Taffin shoots the guy in the car, and then in the weirdest moment, like editing wise, he goes to shoot the other bad guy, but the way it's cut, we see a shot of him. He shoots the guy in the car, and then for some reason puts his hands like way in the air and brings the gun down like this, and it takes forever. I don't know why they did it. I don't know if they thought it looked interesting. When you watch this, it's literally, he's just like, I'm going to shoot you now. Bang. And then shoots him. It's like,
yeah. And
right,
his Mustang blows up.
Yeah. But we don't even see what happened there. The Mustang blows up.
Yeah.
But then they're getting to then he shows up at the rendezvous, I assume, for where they were going to like show the big bad Taffin's body or something. He gets there, but the bad guy shows up, but Taffin's there instead. Yeah. And then the end of this movie. So I was looking at the time. I was like, okay, they got to wrap. There's like 4 minutes left in the movie at this point, like on the little play bar. And I was like, he just gets out of the car and is about to confront the bad guy. How are they going to wrap this up?
He just shoots him.
Just shoots him.
You're a fool.
Literally, the guy's like, says one line at him, goes to pull out a gun, and then Taffin pulls out a gun and shoots him.
Well, Taffin had the gun in his
pocket and shoots through his trench coat like 4 times and kills him. And then it cuts to Charlotte standing in line at a bus stop to leave, and here's Brosnan walks up and just starts pushing her.
Yeah.
He just starts pushing her. And then he says,
"Be cool, Charlotte. Be cool."
And smiles. And then the movie ends and the credits roll. And it's the weirdest.
It's so good.
The ending is just like, this movie takes its time with so much stuff. At a couple times it gets boring. And then at the end they're like, he confronts the bad guy, kills him, reunites with the girl in literally like a minute of screen time or something. There's no explanation of, are things back to normal? We get zero denouement whatsoever. It is just like murder, girlfriend, over. Cool, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The ending of this movie is not good. It's real rough. I think they really just felt like they ran out of time and budget. But the rest of this movie's pretty fucking great.
In the credits, there was one thing that kind of threw me off. It was a credit that I've never seen before, but it was for the sound mixing. It was footstep mixer. Yeah, footstep mixer. Like, your job is just to match footsteps.
Normally, that would just be the Foley guy.
Yeah.
But they got a specific footstep maestro who does all the footsteps. That's interesting. I don't know how to rate this movie.
There's parts of it that are wacky in some ways, but there's also parts of it that are like really, really fucking good.
Yeah. And then there's parts of it that are bad. Like, there are elements of it that are technically not good. A few, not a ton, but a few. But it's just, I guess I have to go good bad.
Yeah.
Technically,
it's Pierce Brosnan. I gotta go good.
That's what I mean. That's what I like in the sense of, and we've had these before where it's not like good bad like a good, like our normal good bad fare, but it's good bad in the sense that there's some good and there's some bad. What
it's reminiscent of is very early on.
Oh, you're talking about Good Cop, Bad Cop?
Exactly.
Yeah, I knew
Lorenzo
you were going to
Lamas, very similar to that.
Yeah, kind of similar, where there's some really good writing, some really good performances mixed with some really cheesy, like silly stuff, and a little bit boring at times, like pacing issues.
Well, like 9 times out of 10, when you get these movies where it's like one-man army and there's some investigation or he's like fighting back against power, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a light blast with Eric Estrada. One out of every 10 though is going to be either this or Good Cop, Bad Cop.
Yeah, something like that for sure. And I think it's interesting too because they definitely marketed this movie, like the posters and the trailers and stuff market this as like an action blowout movie when it's really not.
No,
like it's more of like a character piece mixed with some action, which is interesting. Yeah, so I guess good, bad, but kind of not really. It's weird. It's complicated.
It's definitely
it's complicated.
I'd recommend people to watch it.
It's watchable. It's on YouTube. Probably not legally, but that's where we watched it. That's it. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/GBorBB. Like we said in the last episode, it's where we got these fancy new cameras, so you're seeing us
so
in
cool,
shiny 4K. It's also where all of the rest of our equipments and lights and blah 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 that we get over the course of time is all paid for by people like you
Thank you.
It's like watching PBS. I have a podcast called This Film Is Lit. We talk about movies that are based on books. When this is out, again, I still have no idea because we're so far ahead. But check us out. We talk about all kinds of stuff. Go
to the merch store. Get
merch store.
T-shirts.
I was just about to say the merch store.
Look at the t-shirt I got.
There you go.
On.
Quantum Physics. We got Good, Bad, or Bad. Different logos. We got ones with our old faces on them.
Baby onesies.
Whatever you want, you can get that there. And portions of the proceeds support us. And that was delightful. And I think that's it. So until next time.
Keep watching movies, especially.
Just watch Pierce Brosnan. You did it. You did it.
I did it.
Especially.
Hey, I caught myself though. Just watch Taffin. It's fun.
It's a lot of fun. And drink Guinness.